Number 100. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. 2010 Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is a highly imaginative, endlessly entertaining, hilarious film, and it's the most recent one you'll find on this list. Definitely a case of style over substance, but when you got Edgar Wright directing and co-writing, the result is pure kick-ass movie awesomeness. Number 99. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven's original A Nightmare on Elm Street, released in 1984, is a really creative landmark horror film. I love the way dreams are used in this film. Hell, throughout the whole series. I'm definitely a fan of the franchise, even though there are some crappier ones. But you know what? This is my list, or if I want to have the entire franchise for a spot on here, I'm going to do it. Number 99, The Nightmare on Elm Street series. Number 98, Wayne's World. The best movie to come out of SNL besides The Blues Brothers, 1992's Wayne's World is a movie I've loved ever since I first saw it. The movie is a lot funnier than it has any right to be, and most of the jokes hold up 25 years later. As far as the sequel goes, it's okay, but it's never been a favorite of mine. Number 97, The Shawshank Redemption. The Shawshank Redemption, adapted from a novella by Stephen King, is a wonderful movie about hope and redemption, with great performances by Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. The film's directed by Frank Darabont, who went on to direct 2 more really good Stephen King adaptations, as well as starting off The Walking Dead. The movie has a tremendous climax, which has left a profound effect on me. Number 96, The King of Comedy. Martin Scorsese's 1983 black comedy is a highly underrated film, featuring another great performance by Robert De Niro. You know, back when he was an actor. Someone else who's great in this movie is Jerry Lewis of all people. Only negative, Sandra Bernhard. Can't stand her face or her voice. There's definitely some humorous moments in the film, but most of it comes from uncomfortable and cringeworthy situations. Number 95, Zodiac. David Fincher has made several movies I've really enjoyed, but my favorite of his is 2007's Zodiac. The film follows the investigation of the still unsolved case of the Zodiac Killer. The story and the characters are engrossing, and the recreation of the late 60s and 70s is perfection. The cast is excellent as well, with Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr. in the lead. Number 94, 8½. Federico Fellini made some really wonderful and unique films, but the one I always go back to the most is 8½. It's kinda hard to give a good description of what the film is about. In a nutshell, a famous director is having difficulty working on his next project, and people from his life show up and bug him, and there's several dream sequences and fantasies. It's not an easy film for sure, as if you're not ready for it, you'll be left in the dust. Number 93, Bringing Out the Dead. 1999's Bringing Out the Dead is one of my favorite Martin Scorsese films that no one ever talks about. The movie is electrifying with an awesome soundtrack and a great cast including Nicolas Cage, John Goodman, Ving Rhames, Tom Sizemore, and Patricia Arquette, and contains some of Scorsese's craziest camera work. The film follows Cage, who's a burnt-out ambulance driver, through 3 long, crazy nights. The movie is at times funny, harrowing, and always fascinating. Number 92, A Hard Day's Night. At the height of their popularity, the Beatles worked on several feature films, with clearly the best being A Hard Day's Night. The movie is very entertaining, with some hilarious moments, and of course, it has an outstanding soundtrack. Number 91, The Abyss. The Abyss is a really good underwater sci-fi action epic brought to you by none other than the one and only James Cameron. It contains Ed Harris at his absolute best, as well as some of the finest underwater footage ever filmed. It also has some early CGI, which still looks fantastic to this day. Number 90, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. The original Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a really good movie, but the 1978 version blows it away in my opinion. This version is incredibly intense and horrific, and has a cool cast that includes Donald Sutherland, Jeff Goldblum, and even Spock shows up. A few more remakes followed, but don't come anywhere close to the awesomeness of this classic. The ending left a lasting effect on me, and sends chills down my spine every time I see it. Number 89, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. During the 80s and 90s, I felt Tim Burton could do no wrong. Not Until Here. His first feature film, 1985's Pee-wee's Big Adventure, is definitely one of my favorites. Most people don't realize Burton directed this movie, but if you're able to pick up visually distinct director's trademarks, it should be pretty obvious. The movie is creative and original, and with Burton at the helm, the movie becomes elevated beyond a silly road movie with an odd man-child as the lead character. Number 88. Eraserhead. Another great director's first film, Eraserhead by David Lynch, is a movie unlike anything I've ever seen before. The movie is very disturbing, but also has a dark sense of humor. The basic gist of the film is, well, a guy gets a girl pregnant, she has the baby, and then there's an angel that lives in the radiator, and then his head pops off, and then, well, I suggest you just watch it. It's like watching a very imaginative person's vivid nightmare. Number 87. Barton Fink. The Coen brothers are amazing. There's rarely a movie of theirs I hate. Rarely. One of their more offbeat films is 1991's Barton Fink. It deals with a man named Barton Fink, played by John Turturro, who comes to Hollywood in the 30s to write a wrestling picture. The movie is very funny, with an outstanding supporting cast, and with another great performance by the always wonderful John Goodman. Number 86. Superman the Movie. Superhero movies are a dime a dozen these days, to the point of where I almost don't give a shit anymore. But the first true superhero movie is 1978's Superman the Movie. Sure, it's a bit dated and cheesy at times, but it's still a monumental telling of the Superman story. I love the beginning Krypton scenes, I love the Smallville scenes of Superman growing up and learning his powers, and the Metropolis stuff with Lex Luthor is fun too. But one of the greatest things about this movie is the John Williams score. His score dwarfs almost all other superhero scores, and is the pillar of which all should be measured against. Number 85. Dog Day Afternoon. Dog Day Afternoon's a really awesome bank robbery gone awry movie directed by Sidney Lumet, and it has my favorite performance from Al Pacino. The movie is based on a true story, which is hard to believe since the events in the film are almost absurd at times. The movie has incredible energy, and the tension is kept from start to finish. Number 84. The Fly. Along with Invasion of the Body Snatchers, here is another example of how to do a remake correctly. The original The Fly is a pretty good movie, but what director David Cronenberg did with his disgusting 1986 remake about a man, Jeff Goldblum, who slowly transforms into a fly, blows it out of the water. Overall, the movie is incredibly tragic and leaves you on such a down note, but the way the film is executed is brilliant. Number 83. Rushmore. I've enjoyed most of Wes Anderson's films, but Rushmore is definitely one of my favorites. Jason Schwartzman plays a student at a fancy prep school, falls in love with one of his teachers, and forms an odd relationship with Bill Murray. There are many hilarious scenes throughout, with Murray stealing the show as usual. Anderson's visual style isn't as developed as in later films, but has the expected great soundtrack from the 60s and 70s. Number 82. Inner Space. Joe Dante's 1987 movie about a pilot, played by Dennis Quaid, who is shrunk to microscopic size and accidentally injected into Martin Short, is equal parts sci-fi adventure and comedy. A loose reworking of Fantastic Voyage, the movie takes the sci-fi seriously enough to where the stakes are still high, but has many hilarious moments, mostly from Martin Short, who is on fire here. A wonderful, imaginative movie from the great Joe Dante. Number 81. Stand By Me. Director Rob Reiner's great coming-of-age story, adapted from a novella by Stephen King, is an entertaining and emotionally gripping movie. The story follows four friends as they go on a hunt for a dead body. There are several memorable scenes, such as the train, the pie-eating contest, the leeches, that are alternately funny and harrowing. All four of the kids are equally great, and I love Richard Dreyfuss's narration.